The first thing I noticed was how quiet the room got when the judge opened the file. Not the normal quiet, not polite quiet, the kind where people stop breathing because something just went wrong. He flipped one page, then another. His fingers slowed down. He stared at the paper longer than he should have. Then he looked up at me, not confused, not curious. Recognizing, "Give me a moment," he said, and closed the folder like it had burned him. Across the room, my older sister crossed her arms and smiled. She thought this was finally it. She thought she'd won. I sat there alone, hands in my lap, trying not to shake, trying to look calm while my entire life hung on a lie someone else told about me. They said I wasn't a real lawyer. They said I never passed the bar. They said I'd been practicing illegally for years. They said I tricked clients, lied to judges, stole a career that wasn't mine. And the people who reported me weren't strangers. They were my family. If you're listening to this thinking, there's no way I get it, I would have said the same thing a month ago. I trusted them, even when I shouldn't have, especially when I shouldn't have. My name is Rachel. I'm a defense attorney. Or at least, I was supposed to be one until the state sent me a certified letter saying my license was under review and my name was scheduled for a disciplinary. No warning, no phone call, just an accusation thick enough to destroy everything I built. The letter said the complaint came from concerned parties with direct knowledge. That phrase still makes my stomach twist, because I knew exactly who it meant. My family has always believed I embarrassed them. My father is a corporate tax attorney. My sister followed him straight into mergers and acquisitions. Same firm, same floor, same safe, clean path. The kind that looks good at holiday dinners. I chose criminal defense. I defended people nobody wanted to stand next. People with messy pasts and bad headlines. People who were guilty of some things and innocent of others. People who needed someone in the room who didn't flinch. My family hated that. They never said it out loud at first. They didn't have to. It was in the pauses. The way my sister changed the subject when someone asked about my job. The way my dad would say, "She's doing her thing," and then look away. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself success would fix it. It didn't. When my practice finally took off, when my name started showing up in court opinions and local news, their discomfort turned into something sharper, quieter, meaner. They stopped asking how I was doing. Then they stopped calling. Then one morning, I opened my email and saw the subject line. Notice of allegations, unauthorized practice of law. I laughed at first, out loud, alone in my kitchen. It felt ridiculous. I passed the bar on my first try. I still had the letter, the certificate, the framed license on my office wall. I'd stood in front of judges hundreds of times. This had to be a mistake. Then I read the attachment. Screenshots of records showing my name marked as failed. Sworn statements claiming I admitted I was never licensed. Dates, signatures, official-looking seals. It's all wrong. All convincing. All submitted by my sister. Co-signed by my parents. They said they were just asking questions. They said they wanted clarity. They said they were worried about my client. But that wasn't concern. That was intent. By the time I walked into the hearing room weeks later, I already knew one thing for they didn't come to ask if I was lying. They came to prove it. And as the judge sat there, silent, staring at my file like it had unlocked a memory he didn't expect to see again, I realized something that made my chest tighten. This wasn't going to play out the way my family planned. Something felt wrong. I just didn't know how wrong yet. Before all of this, my life was painfully ordinary. I woke up around 6. Same alarm tone every morning. Coffee first, always too strong. I'd skim emails while standing at the counter, half awake, answering clients who couldn't sleep because court dates do that to. By 8, I was in my office. Second floor, old building, nothing fancy. The kind of place my sister once described as temporary, even after I'd been there for. I liked it there. I knew the security guard by name. The court clerks waved when I walked in. Judges didn't raise their eyebrows when I spoke. That matters more than people think. Most days were paperwork, phone calls, small wins no one writes about, getting a charge reduced, convincing a prosecutor to back off, sitting next to someone while they cried because nobody else. I wasn't famous, I wasn't rich, but I was steady. And I thought that was enough. My family dinners were polite, quiet, controlled. My mother asked surface questions. How's work? Are you eating enough? My father mostly talked to my sister about her cases, about her firm, about partners and bonuses. Sometimes my sister would look at me and smile like we were still close, like we shared something. But it never reached her eyes. I told myself it was normal sibling distance, that not everyone understands criminal defense, that I didn't need their approval. Still, there were moments, like when my sister once joked, "At least your clients do Google you," and everyone laughed. I laughed too, a second too late. Or when my father said, You know, representation matters, and pause, like he wanted to add something but didn't. I ignored those moments. I stayed busy, that's how I survived. Long hours, late nights, files stacked just high enough to keep me from thinking. I trusted the system. I trusted my credentials. I trusted that truth, once written down, stayed true. I trusted my family more than I should have. The day the certified letter came, I'd just finished a hearing. A small one, nothing dramatic. The kind that reminds you why details matter. I remember feeling good, calm, grounded. The envelope was waiting on my desk when I got back. Thick, official, my name typed clean and correct. I almost didn't open it right away. That's the part that keeps replaying in my head. If I'd waited another hour, another day, maybe I would have noticed something earlier. Maybe I would have seen the signs lining up behind me. But I opened it, and the normal life I thought I had started slipping quietly out from under me. I didn't panic yet. I didn't even feel scared. I just felt something shift, like the ground moved half an inch and nobody else noticed. I wasn't ready for what I would find next. At first, I treated the letter like a misunderstanding. That's what reasonable people do. They assume logic will show up eventually. They assume someone will look at the facts and laugh it off. I called the number listed at the bottom, left a voicemail. Calm, professional. I said there must be an error. I said I'd be happy to provide my record. No one called back that day, or the next. That's when the feeling started. That low pressure behind the ribs. The kind you try to ignore. I logged into the Bar Association portal just to reassure myself. My name was there, active, good standing, same as always. Still, I took screenshots. I don't know why, instinct maybe. Then I called my sister. She didn't answer. That wasn't unusual on its own. She was always in meeting. But when I texted, hey, random question, did you hear anything weird about me? She replied almost immediately. What do you mean? Too fast. I explained about the letter, kept it light, used humor. I said someone accused me of practicing without a license. There was a pause, long enough to notice. Then she sent, wow, that's serious. No shock, no confusion. No, that's insane. Just confirmation. I asked if she knew who filed it. She said people talk, you know how it is. That's when my stomach dropped a little. People don't talk to disciplinary committees. They submit sworn complaints. That night I pulled old files from storage. Admission letters, CLE confirmation, court filings with my name stamped and signed by judges. I lined them up on my dining table like evidence. Everything was real. Everything was solid, so why did the letter feel heavier by the hour? Over the next week, small things started happening. A client asked if the rumor was true. A clerk stopped returning my email. A colleague texted, hey, off the record, are you okay? I asked where they heard anything. They didn't answer. When I called my parents, they sounded careful. Too careful. My mother said, we just want what's best for everyone. My father said, this will sort itself out if you cooperate. Cooperate with what? Neither of them denied anything. I started sleeping badly, waking up at 3 in the morning, mind racing, replaying conversations from years ago, trying to find the moment this began. The worst part wasn't fear. It was doubt, not about my credentials, about my family. Because deep down, I already knew. Someone hadn't just questioned me. Someone had decided I was a problem. And problems in my family were meant to be handled quietly. I still didn't know how far they'd gone. I just knew I was already standing closer to the edge than I realized. I found out by accident. That's what still gets me. Not from a confession, not from an argument, just a loose thread someone forgot to tuck in. I was reviewing the complaint packet late one night. Again, I'd read it so many times the words barely registered, but I needed to understand how they were building this story about me. That's when I noticed the phrasing. One sentence stood out, something about internal verification. It wasn't wrong exactly, just specific, too specific for someone outside this. I searched it. The wording matched a template used at my sister's firm, not public. Internal. I only knew because years ago she'd sent me a draft complaint she was working on, asking for feedback. Back when we still talked like sisters. My hands went cold. I scrolled further, metadata on one of the attached PDFs, creation date, author tag. It didn't say her name. It said the firm's network ID. I sat there staring at my screen, the room completely silent except for my laptop fan. My brain kept offering excuses. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe she forwarded something. Maybe someone else did this and used her access. But I knew how these systems work. You don't accidentally generate official-looking documents from a private legal network. You have to mean to. I called her straight to voicemail. I called again. Then I called my mother. She answered on the second ring, too quickly, like she'd been waiting. I asked her directly. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just asked, did you help file the complaint against me? There was a pause, long, heavy. She said, your sister was worried. That was it. No denial. No question about how I found out. Just justification. I felt something crack open in my chest. Not anger yet, something softer, sadder. I asked if the documents were real. She said, we trusted what we were given. That's when I realized this wasn't about truth. It was about comfort. It was easier for them to believe I was lying than accept I succeeded without their approval. I hung up and sat on my kitchen floor for a long time. I didn't cry, I couldn't. I kept thinking about holidays, about birthdays, about all the moments I'd brushed off the tension because I didn't want to be dramatic. They weren't confused. They weren't mistaken. They'd chosen a version of me that made them feel better. And they were willing to burn my life down to protect it. I wasn't ready for what came next, but I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't pretend anymore. I didn't confront anyone after that. Not right away. I went quiet. That scared me more than anger would have. Silence meant I was thinking, and thinking meant I was seeing things I couldn't unsee. I took a few days off work, told my assistant I had a family issue. That part was true. I just didn't explain how deep it went. I started digging the way I do for cases. Slow, careful, no assumptions. Late nights, laptop glow, coffee going cold beside me. I pulled every version of my bar records I could access. Direct downloads, archive confirmations, emails from years ago. I saved everything, labeled folders, dates, time. Then I looked at their evidence again, not like someone defending herself, like someone prosecuting a lie. The signatures didn't line up. Fonts shifted mid-page. Reference numbers were off by one digit. Small mistakes. The kind you miss when you're rushing. The kind you make when you think nobody will look too closely. I ran a metadata scan on every file. Same origin, same machine cluster. My sister's firm. I stared at that result longer than I want to admit. I kept hoping to find something that would let me stop, something that would prove I was overreacting, that I could still fix this quietly. But every click pushed me further from that option. What hurt most wasn't the risk to my license. It was the intention. They didn't call me first. They didn't ask for proof. They didn't warn me. They went straight for the lever that would cause maximum damage. I kept replaying our last normal conversation. My sister telling me she was proud of me. My mother asking if I'd come for dinner the next weekend. All of it felt staged now, like they'd already decided what I was. Around 2 in the morning, I closed my laptop and rested my forehead on the table. I thought about walking away, letting it go, taking a different job, starting over quietly. But then I pictured my client, people who trusted me, people who'd already lost so much. And I realized something. If I stayed silent, the lie would become the truth. Not just about me, about what I deserved. I wasn't ready to fight yet, but I was done protecting them. And that realization scared me more than the hearing itself. The hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning. I didn't sleep the night before. Not really. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, replaying every version of this that could go wrong. What if they suspended my license while they looked into it? What if clients left? What if the damage was already done? I kept telling myself I had proof, real proof that should matter. But systems don't move on truth alone, they move on perception. When I walked into the building, my sister was already there. So were my parents. All three of them stood together near the elevators, talking quietly. They stopped when they saw me. My mother's smile froze halfway. My father looked past me like I wasn't really there. My sister met my eyes. She didn't look nervous. She looked relieved. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a panic move. This wasn't desperation. This was planned. We sat on opposite sides of the room, literally, like strangers, like enemies who'd agreed not to acknowledge each other. When the judge entered, everyone stood. I recognized him immediately. And so did he. I'd appeared in his courtroom before, years ago, a case most people forgot. He didn't forget. He opened the file, flipped a page, then another. Then everything slowed. His face changed, not surprise, not confusion. Disbelief. He looked up at me, then back down again, like he was checking whether two memories could exist at the same time. He stopped, closed the file, and said, "We need a brief recess." My sister shifted in her seat, just slightly. That was the first crack. The recess stretched longer than it should have. 15 minutes, then 20. No one spoke. When the judge came back, he wasn't alone. He carried another file, thicker, older. He sat down and didn't look at me right away. He looked at my sister, then my parents, then he said something that drained all the color from the room. "I have reviewed the materials submitted during the recess," he said, "and I need to clarify something before we proceed." He held up the second file. This attorney argued a case in my courtroom several years ago. I remember it very clearly, because it was one of the most competent, ethical performances I've seen in a long time. He finally looked at me. Are you telling this panel, he continued, turning back to my sister's attorney, that this was done by someone who was not licensed to practice law? My sister's mouth opened. No sound came out. That was the moment I understood the full scope of what she'd done. She hadn't just tried to hurt me. She'd assumed no one important would remember me at all. And she was wrong. The room felt smaller after that, like the walls had leaned in just enough to make breathing harder. My sister's attorney started talking fast. Words piled on top of each other, technical phrases, polite confusion. He kept saying things like there must be some discrepancy, and we were provided these materials in good faith. Good faith. I watched my sister while he spoke. She wasn't looking at him. She wasn't looking at the judge either. She was staring at the table. My parents sat perfectly still. My mother's hands were folded so tight her knuckles had gone white. My father kept clearing his throat like he wanted to say something but didn't know how. The judge turned to me. Ms. Reynolds, he said, calm but firm, you've heard the allegations. You've seen the documents. Do you wish to respond? That question hung there longer than it should have. Because this was the moment, I could have stayed quiet, let the judge dismantle their case on his own, let the system handle it without my fingerprints on the fallout. Part of me wanted that, part of me still wanted to protect them. I stood up anyway. My legs felt unsteady. My voice didn't. That surprised me. Yes, I said, I do. I didn't give a speech. I didn't raise my voice. I just laid everything out. Slowly, clearly, one piece at a time. My original bar admission letter, my license history, court transcripts with my name signed, and stamped by judges in 3 counties. Then I addressed the documents they submitted. I didn't accuse, I didn't point. I just showed metadata, creation dates, network identifiers, the same firm system my sister logged into every day. I felt sick while I did it, not nervous, grieving, because with every sentence, I was making a choice. Not to save them, not to soften it, not to pretend this was a misunderstanding. I looked at my sister for the first time since the hearing started. Why didn't you just ask me? I said. She didn't answer. The judge took a long breath, then another. I want the record to reflect, he said, that the evidence submitted by the complainants appears to be fabricated. My mother let out a sound, half gasp, half sob. The judge continued, this panel is not here to resolve family conflict, but we are obligated to respond to false statements made under oath. He paused, then he asked the question that sealed everything. Who prepared these documents? A silence. No one moved. That's when I realized something painful and final. They thought I'd fold. They thought I'd protect them. They thought family loyalty would keep me quiet. They never imagined I'd choose myself. I sat back down, heart pounding, knowing whatever came next would change everything. There was no going back after this. The judge didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. This complaint is dismissed, he said, looking down at the file one last time. There is no evidence that Ms. Reynolds practiced law without authorization. There is, however, serious evidence that this panel has been presented with false and misleading documents. My sister finally looked up. Her face had gone pale, not shocked, more like someone realizing a door just closed behind them. The judge turned to her attorney. I am referring this matter to the appropriate authorities for further review, he said, including potential perjury and submission of falsified record. My mother started crying then, quietly, like she hoped no one would notice. My father stood halfway, then sat back down when the judge looked at him. This hearing is concluded, the judge said. Ms. Reynolds, you are free to go. That was it. No dramatic ending. No applause. Just consequences. In the hallway, my sister caught up to me. Rachel, she said. My name sounded strange in her mouth. Smaller. This got out of hand. I stopped walking. For who? I asked. She didn't answer. My parents didn't follow. They stayed behind, talking to someone I didn't recognize. Their world was already shrinking. Over the next few weeks, things unraveled quietly. My sister was placed on leave pending investigation. Her firm didn't make a public statement. They didn't have to. Silence said enough. My parents stopped calling, then stopped emailing. Mutual friends stopped inviting all of us to the same events. Lines were drawn without anyone announcing them. As for me, the review cleared my name completely. A formal letter, clean language, no apology. Clients came back, some said they never doubted me, some admitted they did. I didn't blame them. Trust, once shaken, doesn't snap back into place. The hardest part wasn't watching my family face consequences. It was accepting that they didn't regret trying. They only regretted failing. Justice didn't feel like victory. It felt like standing alone in a room that used to be full, and realizing no one was coming to explain it away. That was the price of telling the truth, and I paid it in full. Life didn't reset after that. There was no fresh start montage, no clean line between before and after. Things just settled. My mornings look the same now. Same alarm, same strong coffee, same walk into the office, but the air feels different, lighter in some ways, heavier in others. People treat me with a little more care, like they're afraid of saying the wrong thing. I let them. I don't need reassurance anymore. My sister and I don't speak. I still have her number saved in my phone. I haven't deleted it. I don't know why. Habit, maybe? Or hope that hasn't fully died yet. My parents send cards on holidays, no return address, short messages, careful words, as if distance can be managed through stationery. I don't reply. That was a hard choice, harder than the hearing, harder than standing up in that room and saying the quiet part out loud. Because silence used to be how I survived in my family. Now it's how I protect myself. Sometimes I think about how close I came to losing everything. Not because I did something wrong, but because people who knew me decided a lie was easier than accepting me. That thought still wakes me up some nights, but then I go to work, I sit across from clients who are scared, who have been accused, who have been talked over and misrepresented. And I listen. I don't rush them. I don't promise outcomes I can't control. I just stay present. Because I know what it feels like when the story being told about you isn't yours. The judge from the hearing retired recently. He sent a short note, just a sentence, thanking me for my professionalism, for my restraint. I read it twice. Restraint, that word stayed with me, not because I held back, but because I didn't let bitterness decide who I became. I don't tell this story to feel vindicated. I tell it because betrayal doesn't always come with shouting or slammed doors. Sometimes it comes with calm voices, signed document, people who smile and say they're only trying to help. And sometimes justice doesn't look like winning. It looks like walking away without explaining yourself anymore. My family wanted to expose me. Instead, they taught me something I should have learned sooner. Not everyone who calls you family is safe, and not every truth needs to be loud to be final.